This is Eritrea, a country with no internet, no independent media, and no free elections since 1993. It's a dictatorship run by one man for over 3 decades. And every month, over 1,500 people risk death by trying to escape it. In 1993, this country celebrated independence. 99.8% voted for freedom in a UN referendum. People danced in the streets. Today, 15% of the population lives abroad as refugees. That's 580,000 people who chose exile over home. The reason is a system called national service. It's supposed to last 18 months, 6 months military training, and 12 months development work. In reality, it never ends. Most people serve for a decade, some even 2 decades, and some never leave. There is no discharge process. If you try to escape, border guards have shoot-to-kill orders, and if you're caught, shipping containers in the desert. Your family gets fined or arrested. This is the story of how a liberation movement became a prison state, how every high school student finishes grade 12 inside a military camp, and how an 18-month program became what the United Nations called slavery-like forced labor. First of all, where is this place? Eritrea sits on the Horn of Africa, Sudan to the west, Ethiopia to the south, Djibouti to the southeast, and the Red Sea to the east. The Red Sea coastline matters. It's one of the most important shipping lanes in the world. The Suez Canal is just north, which makes Eritrea strategically valuable, which explains why multiple empires have fought over it. The country is small, about 120,000 square kilometers, roughly the size of Pennsylvania, with a population of over 3.6 million people, though the exact numbers are unclear because Eritrea doesn't publish census data. There are 9 ethnic groups. The largest is Tigray at 55%, then the Tigray at 30%. The rest divided into smaller groups. The capital, Asmara, known for its Italian Art Deco architecture from the 1930s. The city looks frozen in time, like it hasn't changed since the 1950s. And it hasn't. No functional internet, no independent newspapers, no private businesses of significance. The country operates as it did in the 1990s, because information is controlled. The government restricts internet access to prevent outside influence. Independent media was shut down in 2001, and elections were never held because the ruling party intended to share power. Phase 1. The setup. To understand how Eritrea became this, you need to go back. 1890. Italy colonizes Eritrea. For 50 years, Italians built infrastructure, ports, railways, roads. They create borders separating Eritrea from Ethiopia. When World War II ends, Italy loses its colonies. The question becomes, what happens to Eritrea? 1952. The United Nations creates a federation. Eritrea joins Ethiopia but keeps autonomy. Its own parliament, its own flag, its own languages, Tigrinya and Arabic. Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia has other plans. Throughout the 1950s, he systematically dismantles Eritrean institutions. He bans the flag, suppresses the parliament, and makes Amharic the only official language. 1962. He formally annexes Eritrea as Ethiopia's 14th province. The federation is dead, and the Eritreans respond. September 1st, 1961. The Eritrean Liberation Front fires the first shots, the beginning of a 30-year war for independence. By the 1970s, a new group emerges, the Eritrean People's Liberation Front, EPLF, disciplined, organized, and committed to total self-reliance. Here's what makes them different. No international backing, the Soviet Union supports Ethiopia, the United States doesn't care, so the EPLF relies on captured weapons and their own ingenuity. They built an ideology around one principle: we are alone and we can only trust ourselves. For 30 years, they fight, in mountains, in deserts, in trenches that looked like World War I. They built weapons factories underground, trained their own doctors, and promoted women to leadership positions. May 1991, they win. EPLF forces march into Asmara, the Ethiopian regime collapses, Eritrea is free. April 1993. A UN-supervised referendum makes it official. 99.8% vote for independence. The celebration is massive. Dancing in the streets, parades, flags everywhere. After 30 years of war, Eritrea is finally free. Then, everything goes wrong. The EPLF transforms into a political party, the People's Front of Democracy and Justice, PFDJ. They promise elections, they promise democracy. 1997. They draft a constitution. All the right words: fundamental rights, independent judiciary, periodic elections, freedom of speech. The constitution is ratified, but it is never implemented. Not once. To this day, it sits as a document with no legal force. Why? 1998, everything changes. Phase 2, the mechanism. May 1998, a border dispute erupts between Ethiopia and Eritrea. The town is called Badme, a minor disagreement over a minor town, but it escalates. This isn't skirmishes, this is trench warfare, artillery, human wave attacks, World War I transplanted to the Horn of Africa. By the time it ends in 2000, between 70,000 and 100,000 people are dead. The war ends with the Algiers Agreement, December 2000. A boundary commission is established to settle the dispute. 2002, the commission rules that Badme belongs to Eritrea. Ethiopia rejects the ruling. For the next 16 years, the two countries exist in a state of no war, no peace. Technically at peace, practically still at war. Troops on both sides, tensions permanently high. President Isaias Afwerki uses this to justify something remarkable: permanent militarization. Here's how national service was supposed to work. 1995. Proclamation number 82 establishes mandatory service, ages 18 to 40. 18 months total, 6 months military training, and 12 months development work. Then you go home. That's the official version. 2002, the government launches a development campaign. The name translates to Generation of Liberation. The stated purpose is national reconstruction and defense readiness. In practice, one thing happens. National service becomes indefinite. No end date, no discharge process. You serve until the government decides, and the government never decides. Let's be clear what that means. You're 18 years old in Eritrea. Your final year of high school doesn't happen in a normal school. It happens in Sawa military camp, remote desert location. You complete your education under military discipline. You take exams, you graduate, and then you stay. You're assigned to a post, military unit, construction project, mine, or government farm. You don't choose. You go where you're told. And your pay? 5,000 to 2,000 nakfa per month. That's $33 to $133 at black market rates, below the poverty line. Can you leave? No. Leaving without permission is desertion, punishment by imprisonment, torture, or death. Can you refuse to go? Also no. Draft evasion is a crime. Your family gets fined up to 50,000 nakfa, property seized, and family members arrested. Collective punishment. The United Nations calls this slave-like forced labor. The Eritrean government calls it national duty, a patriotic sacrifice. The justification is always the same. We are under threat from Ethiopia. We must remain mobilized. This is temporary. But it's been 23 years. An entire generation has grown up knowing nothing but indefinite service. People who were 18 in 2002 are now in their 40s, many still serving. This is how Eritrea maintains control, not through persuasion, through conscription. The entire military-aged population is under direct state supervision. You can't start a business, you can't pursue education abroad, you can't build a life. You're in national service. A system designed to prevent independent civil society, because if everyone is in the military or state-controlled labor, no one has time or freedom to organize politically. Indefinite temporary service. Quite the contradiction. Phase 3, the peak. Let's talk about what happens if you try to leave. The borders are militarized, guards, fences, and since 2004, a shoot-to-kill policy for anyone crossing without authorization. If you're caught alive, detention. Eritrea has estimated 400 detention facilities. Some are official prisons, many are not. Underground cells, military camps, shipping containers in the desert. Basically metal boxes. Daytime temperatures 40 to 50 degrees Celsius, at night freezing. Minimal ventilation, no sanitation, and prisoners packed so tightly they sleep in shifts. People die in these containers. This is documented. Survivor testimonies, UN reports, human rights organizations. One notorious site is Black Beach, a prison in a remote desert. Political prisoners in underground cells. Temperatures reaching 50 degrees. Starvation, rations, torture. The torture is systematic. The helicopter, hands and feet tied behind the back, suspended from a tree or a ceiling. The Jesus, cross-like suspension in the sun. Bastonado, beating the soles of feet with rubber pipes or sticks. Some forced to stand in scorching sand for hours, permanent scarring. But this is standard practice. Black Beach is where the government sent the G-15, September 2001. 15 senior officials published an open letter calling for elections and implementation of the constitution. 11 were arrested, held since 2001. Current status unknown. Some believed dead. The same month, the government shut down all independent media. Newspapers closed, journalists arrested. Eritrea became the leading jailer of journalists in Africa. September 2001, same month as the 9/11 attacks. The world was distracted. The crackdown went unnoticed. That was the end of Eritrea's democratic movement. No independent media, no opposition parties, no civil society. Religious freedom, 4 denominations allowed. Eritrean Orthodox, Roman Catholic, Evangelical Lutheran, Sunni Islam. All others are banned. Pentecostals, Jehovah's Witness, other unregistered groups were arrested. 2023. Authorities arrested 103 students for recording gospel music for YouTube, detained without trial. Jehovah's Witnesses get the worst treatment. They refuse military service on religious grounds, some imprisoned for over 20 years, stripped of citizenship rights, can't get jobs, can't access services, can't even get ID documents. Even recognized religious leaders aren't safe. In 2006, the government deposed the patriarch of the Eritrean Orthodox Church. He refused state interference in church affairs, and he was on house arrest until his death in 2022. The state demands total loyalty. Loyalty to the regime above all else. Religion, ethnicity, family. This is what the government calls self-reliance, but the result is mass exodus. Phase 4. The reality. As of 2025, over 580,000 registered Eritrean refugees and asylum seekers globally, 15 to 20% of the country's population. 1 in 6 Eritreans has fled. Primary destinations, Ethiopia, Sudan, but thousands reach Europe. Germany hosts around 80,000, the United States admitted 2,400 in 2024. Are these people fleeing poverty? Well, Eritrea's GDP per capita is around $700, one of the poorest countries in the world. But that's not the primary driver. They're fleeing national service, political repression, a state that treats its citizens as property. The journey out is deadly. Those who cross into Sudan or Ethiopia end up in refugee camps. During the Tigray War, Eritrean forces entered camps and abducted or killed people who fled. In Sudan, the 2023 civil war displaced Eritrean refugees once again. Some attempted the Sahara to Libya route, then the Mediterranean to Europe. 2014 to 2024. Over 24,000 migrants die crossing the central Mediterranean. A significant portion were Eritrean. For those who make it safely, the government doesn't let it go. Transnational repression. The government mandates a 2% diaspora tax on all Eritreans abroad, officially for reconstruction, in practice for control. Eritrea is one of only 2 countries in the world that taxes its citizens regardless of where they live. The other is the United States. The difference? The US doesn't use it to punish families back home. And if you don't pay, no consular services, no passport renewal, can't inherit property in Eritrea, family go back home, face consequences. Pro-government groups monitor diaspora communities. Embassy staff track activists. Stockholm, Tel Aviv, Toronto. Violent clashes at cultural festivals between pro-government and opposition groups. The regime's reach extends beyond its borders. And inside Eritrea, the economy is a shambles. The government operates through the Red Sea Trading Corporation, economic wing of the ruling party, controls imports, construction and agriculture. The private sector barely exists. Most of the workforce is conscripted, no labour market. The primary hard currency source is mining, gold, copper and others. The Bisha mine generates significant revenue. No transparency where the money goes, social services chronically underfunded. Public debt is 176% of GDP. They're cut off from the international markets. No public budgets published. No data, no accountability. 70% live in poverty. 40% of children don't attend school, not because of lack of kids, the government doesn't fund education. Healthcare similarly underfunded. Hospitals lack basic supplies, doctors and nurses are conscripts with minimal training. Qualified professionals have fled. This is self-reliance, a state that controls everything and provides nothing. Phase 5, the future. So where does this go? 2018, a movement of hope. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed signed a peace deal with Eritrea, ending no war, no peace. UN lifted sanctions and there were celebrations. Maybe things would change, but they didn't. The peace wasn't reform, it was tactical alliance. Eritrea and Ethiopia united against the Tigray People's Liberation Front. 2020. Civil war in Ethiopia's Tigray region. Eritrean forces intervened, accused of massacres, widespread rape, systematic atrocities. 2021. The alliance frayed. Abiy talked about Ethiopia's natural right to the Red Sea. Eritrea saw that as a threat. Early 2025. Both nations mobilizing troops along the border. Another war looms. President Isaias Afwerki has been in power since 1993, now in his late 70s. No clear successor, no transition plan. The government is so centralized that his death could trigger a power struggle. Or nothing. The system might continue as is. Authoritarian state, no accountability, no transparency, no exit. For the 1,000 people who escape every month, the calculation is simple. Risk death now, or spend the rest of your life in indefinite service. Eritrea is a country that never stopped behaving like it was at war. The war with Ethiopia ended in 1991, but the war mentality never did. The liberation movement that fought for freedom became the prison state that denies it. The people who want independence now prevent their children from leaving. Indefinite 18-month service, no internet in 2025, a country frozen in time by choice. Quite the definition of freedom. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you want to support, please check the links down below for our sponsors, and please subscribe as it means a lot. See you in the next video.